Welcome to Financials with Ahawo. It's a joy to come together again as we continue on our Making Wealth series. Today, we want to continue on the conversations around finances and doing it with others. And we'll pick up on what I call coming together. Just as the word says, is what does it look like when you have been doing your finances on your own, and then you come to a place of now bringing it together and starting to maneuver it with another person. It's interesting because our human nature is first selfish. So every thought around how I can move is usually around, how will this work for me? How will I grow? And of course, you have to be self-seeking in a sense, but it should not be the only way. So many times, one of the biggest things that we have to deal with when it comes to coming together is how do I draw a balance between my self-seeking place and now also seeking to come alongside this other person or letting them come alongside me so that we can now build together. And this works in different settings. Most times when it comes to finance, we can think about it, okay, maybe it's a marriage, this lady doing her own finance, this gent doing his own finance, and then they come together. It can also be maybe siblings. You see a business idea or you see an investment and you're like, hiya, let me come together with my brother or my sister and see if we can be able to come fuse our funds together and do something bigger. It could also be with good friends and you decide, let's come together and see how we can then grow stronger with a better foundation. And as we build up on that, the next thing then we have to think about is how transparent do we want to be? To what extent do we want to make things known? Because trust and money are key. And trust comes when you're able to openly say, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm dealing with, and then this is how you can come alongside me, or I can come alongside you. Or even if you may not be at the place where you're doing a full disclosure of all your finance, then you do a full disclosure on the thing that you're working on together. That's very key. So nothing is under the table, nothing is behind the door, everything, nothing is in fine print, nothing remains unspoken over that particular area you're coming together. And of course, this varies depending on the levels of coming together. So people say differently, let's say in marriage, that should be 100 disclosure, honestly, because by the end of the day, this is the person who, if you're not there, will continue running your affairs. And it's difficult because you come into that kind of union for different reasons. Some come willingly, some come because of a life circumstance, some come under pressure. But the key thing is build it up in a way that you can be able to have a disclosure that is complete, because then there is adequate trust from that. And then maybe you're dealing with a sibling and you're already doing all these other things individually, but maybe you're coming together to do a business. Around that business and anything that would affect that business, open up. Let's be defined. Because then that ensures that no one feels that they are being treated and no one feels that they are not being given the full story. Same thing with friends. Define it with openness. Be clear. And it's even good to have something written, like a formal agreement. Ahawo, Emmanuel, Winnie, Joy are coming together to do this for this period of time, for this particular project. It may seem like a formality at the onset, but over a given period of time, it makes a lot of sense and it defines boundaries. Other thing as you think of coming together is, how do we deal when things don't work? Because that can happen. And I've touched on it a bit. So like just what I've previously said, if something is written, then it's easy to also capture an aspect of how do we deal when things don't work? How do we ensure that we can close this without losing the family relationship, without losing the friendship, without losing the marital understanding if things don't work? And one of the ways they say you can think of addressing this is engage a legal practitioner, especially if you're dealing with high sums of coming together financially. Engage a financial advisor if you're not 100% sure of what you're doing. Ensure that the decisions you're not purely emotional, but there is a third party who helps you to maneuver the space of setup, so that should you need to disengage, should things go wrong, then there is also an avenue or a direction that you can take. So as we think through that, my challenge to us would be also think beyond we are good friends, or I get along with this sibling, or my husband and I, it's obvious we'll just do money together. No, there has to be a level of intentionality. If we are intentional about how we engage with others with our finances, then we are able to weather different seasons in our financial engagement together. It's work. Every kind of engagement with another human being is work. It can even be just with your children. It can even be just with your parents. It can even be just with an acquaintance. Sometimes even making a line in the bank is work. Someone will step on you. So there has to be an intentionality behind it that ensures that you work towards staying together now that you've chosen to come together. There's so much to talk about in this area, and there's so much you can explore because we know the power of doing things in unison. I love to use scripture as my basis, and I'm reminded of a scripture in Psalms 133 where it talks about God pouring out a blessing when there is unity. So coming together really is an open door for a blessing. It's an open door for a unified structure. It's an open door to do more. And again, same scripture tells us 2 can put to flight 10,000 compared to 1 who puts to flight 1,000, because or unless the blessing of the Lord is upon me. So again, the strength of coming together is so evident as we continue to make wealth. The key thing is the wisdom that we put in place, the strategies that we put in place, and the people who we work together with. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to keep writing every goal. If it's your goals of coming together, identify who can I come together with, what can I come together with them on. If I need to go the legal financial way, how can I go that way to ensure that we have our bases covered and move. Make your plans and move. Thank you for listening. It's Ahawo, and looking forward to our next conversation.